Hey guys, Earshot here with another Pro Tools 10 tutorial, and today we will be discussing working with elastic audio. Here are our objectives: enabling elastic audio on a track, selecting from the available elastic audio plugins and recognize how they work, and viewing and manipulating elastic audio event markers. So let's dive in here. Again guys, this is a part 1 of a part 2 video. Part 2, I'll be discussing other objectives, so if you'd like to learn more about elastic audio, just follow along here. Also, I have an elastic audio tutorial on Pro Tools already on my channel. These are the new and advanced ones, so follow along with these. If you accidentally click one of those, I'll just have a link as an annotation or something for you guys. So let's dive in here. Elastic audio, how do you enable it? How do you get to it, etc., etc. in Pro Tools. Alright, so if you're asking yourself that, it's actually quite simple. You have to be in this window here. This whole entire window section, if you will, is called the edit window. And this section here, if you hit Command plus on your keyboard, it takes you to the mix window. You cannot get to elastic audio on this window, so I should start off by saying that. Also, you cannot enable elastic audio on like master tracks and stuff like that, aux tracks, only on audio tracks and I think on MIDI tracks, but don't quote me on the MIDI one. So let's get into the different modes, because you guys need to know this and to use elastic audio properly. Let me disable this group first and make these small. Alright guys, so elastic audio here, let's zoom in for you. On an audio track, there will be this little icon here, and this is the elastic audio plugin selector. So elastic audio, these 5 plugins here are what you guys are going to be working with for the most part. There's no other ones as far as I know, and these each do a different have different algorithms for time compression and expansion, and I'm going to dive into these really quick so we can do some elastic audio with my audio track here. So polyphonic, what is it? Well, it's a general use for audio time compression and expansion. It's what they use in the workspace window or the digibase window. I'm going to show you right now really quick. You go to workspace here, window, workspace. You get this window here. As you can see, you have different elastic audio plugins here, and if you have an audio track on a hard drive and you're trying to import it to your session and it's out of tempo, you can click this tempo icon here. You can listen to it to make sure that it's in tempo, but you see the default time compression and expansion algorithm is polyphonic, so that's what they use for overall audio algorithms when you import into Pro Tools and stuff. And if sessions or audio is out of time, that's what they like to use for overall. And it's quick at rendering as well, as we're going to find out. These are a lot longer in rendering. There's different ones. So rhythmic, what is rhythmic? Rhythmic would be something for a lot of transients. So if you think of an instrument with a lot of transients, a drum set, it has a lot of transients, this will be good for drums. If you're doing any like tempo changes on drums and using elastic audio, rhythmic is the way to go. Monophonic, this is good for vocals or a bass track. As you can, we're gonna learn here. I'm gonna enable that for monophonic for my vocals. This takes a longer time to render if you don't have a fast computer, because it's a higher quality algorithm and plugin. So vary speed is good for pitch changes. If you have tracks with pitch changes and you're enabling elastic audio, I would suggest this one for that. Also, anything with post-production, this will be the way to go. Xform you can use for anything really. It's the most high quality plugin for elastic audio. It takes the longest to render, and as you can see right next to it, it says rendered only, so you can only play this back after it renders. It cannot render in real time, so keep that in mind when you use an Xform, because it takes a lot of processing on your computer if you're using a lot of them. Alright, so let's change this to monophonic here, and let's change this to ticks instead of samples. So if I make any changes, it stays in time with my session. Alright, so if I go to large here, I'm going to show you. Oh, that didn't do it. Well, your track will go to or turn gray when you usually enable elastic audio. It's not doing it here because I had them all already. Let's see if I can do it for one of these hidden tracks. Luckily, let's make this active. Make this larger for you guys. Zoom in. Alright, so if I enable this to monophonic, as you can see, it turned gray. My computer does it so fast because I have a fast computer. It turns gray because it has to process the audio, and you know it's becoming enabled. So if you're like wondering why your track is like staying gray or something, it's just probably because it's either a really long audio track, like a minute long. If you cut it up in sections, it should take less time. So yeah, so if you're wondering that, or it's just you have a slow computer, so get a faster computer if you don't want that to happen. Alright, so we're here on my audio track. Let's go jumbo for you guys. And if you notice, now we have analysis and warp enabled here. Let me zoom in for you guys. If you disable this, the plugin, Elastic Audio, you don't have an analysis and warp enabled. So what this is, an analysis mode is like an editing type of thing for event markers. You can add event markers by just clicking. If you have your pencil tool enabled, you can delete these by holding Alt. Let me zoom in first. Holding Alt, you see how it changes to the back end of the pencil. You can delete these different markers. And when your Elastic Audio gets analyzed, or if that's the correct word, I don't think that's the correct word, but this is what it does. It creates event markers all over your audio in different places, like the transients and stuff like that. So if I was me, I'd add a couple here, maybe one to the tail end of that, you know. And if it was me, I would probably delete like let's see, like this one right there, because that one really didn't have anything. And so consider this an analysis mode again. I'm editing for event markers. You're adding or taking away event markers. And you can only do that in analysis mode. So you can only add event markers in analysis mode or take away event markers in analysis mode. So remember, think of this as like an editing for event markers. So when you switch over to view or warp mode, excuse me, you can only add warp markers. As you can see on the screen, it says add a warp marker now because we're in warp mode. You can only add them in warp mode. So you can tell the difference from the event markers, the black ones, and these darker black ones. These go through the whole entire audio region. As you can see, these have a cut at the top and the bottom, and also the warp ones have a triangle at the base. So these are the differences between the event markers and the warp markers here. And also I should mention that you can do tempo markers here as well by just clicking with a pencil tool. It can do different types of tempo markers. You can edit them, etc., etc. Change the bars here. You can edit them, etc., etc. And this will just do a decrease in tempo for this particular section. So there are tempo markers as well. Let's delete those. And that's how you would add them to your session. You have to make sure that under this little section here, or selection, top left, you click tempo, make sure it has a check mark. You hit the little arrow window, and you can just click away here with your pencil tool and add tempo markers. Alright, so I have this warp marker here. What does it do? It's pretty much like a point in your audio where if you, let me change this real quick and cut this to give you a better example of this. Zoom in here. let's add a warp marker, warp marker, warp marker. Now you might be thinking, can I use the event markers in the background? That's exactly what we're gonna do. When these are just like points on your audio, and you wouldn't want to move these around if you have them placed where you want them to be placed, because the event markers in the backgrounds, the ones that we did in analysis mode, they become our friends now. We can use these to, as you saw, since I'm in grid mode right now, it's doing it in quarter notes. As you saw there, I can change around my audio and it'll render. Mine does it so fast you can't even see it, and it'll become a warp marker. So now my audio got changed here, and this is how it sounds.
Put it on everything.
This is how it sounded before.
Put it on everything.
So if you click on the event markers in the background, it enables them and makes them warp markers. So it's a good thing if you're in analysis mode to have just certain event markers, created, or if when your audio got analyzed, there you go, that's the word, it creates them for you. So if there's too many, just delete them, so that way you can work with your audio in a better manner here. If this is like out of tempo, this section right here, you can use 2 different points to not move the rest of the audio and just work with the middle one here, and it will either speed up or slow down your audio. So let's take a listen.
Have you put it on everything? Yeah.
So you saw there added artifacts because I made such a giant change to this audio. In fact, if I move this over, I can move this one even more. And this is
Have
what
you
it
put
sound
it
like.
on everything?
The end there, you heard that little, I would say like a little shocking technical sound there. Just adding artifacts to your audio. That's what Elastic Audio does if you stretch your audio too much. In fact, it'll turn red if you do, and it's pretty much warning you that it's adding a lot of artifacts to your audio here to compensate for this edit that you did. So let's take a listen to this. It's gonna sound bad, that's why it's red.
Have you put it on everything?
Now, if you wanted to use something like that for like an effect or something, by all means you could, you know what I mean? I'm not telling anybody that they can't use it if it's red. I mean, if you find a creative way to use it, hey, more power to you. So that's how, guys, this is the end of the part 1 of the tutorial. This is how you will enable Elastic Audio again, and make sure that you use analysis mode to mess around with event markers, and warp mode to mess around with warp markers to mess around with your audio. And it'd be good if you stick to the grid to this. I mean, you can always go to slip mode, you know what I mean, go off the grid, and well, it's still on the grid because I'm in grid mode, but you know what I mean, slip mode, you can do some crazy stuff with it. Just got to make sure that's in time with your session. And like if I do this right now, it sounds super weird.
On everything.
See that? It made it faster, that one word.
Everything.
If we disable this, go back to how it sounded like before.
Put it on everything.
This is how it sounded out like originally.
If you put it on everything. Yeah.
That's how it sounded like. So Elastic Audio is a powerful tool to, just time compress and expand your audio, and it's better than the time compression and expansion tool because it's a higher algorithm and it's more clean. So I would recommend you guys getting familiar with it and using it in your sessions to do some audio editing or just doing some creative things. This is Earshock. If you guys have any questions, like I said, just leave them in the comments. If you guys didn't like this video, again, leave it in the comments. And just tell me a good reason or something. Don't be a douchebag. Yeah, Earshock out. Hope you guys enjoyed this.